The vegetable patch your great-grandmother kept never needed a trip to the hardware store, never waited on a seed catalog, and never failed her family through drought, frost, or hard times. While modern gardeners spend hundreds of dollars every spring on seeds, fertilizer, and pest control, a small group of communities quietly kept growing the same plants for centuries using nothing but patience and hard-won knowledge. These are not exotic superfoods or trendy heirloom varieties. These are the vegetables that refuse to disappear, the ones tough enough to survive neglect, spread on their own, and return year after year without asking for anything in return. If you have ever watched a carefully tended garden fail while a weed in the crack of your driveway thrives, then what you are about to hear will completely change how you think about growing food. Stay until the end of this video, because the last few plants on this list are the ones most people have never heard of, and they might be the most useful of all. By the time this video is over, you will know exactly which 20 vegetables the Amish kept growing for generations, why they grow like weeds, and how to start using them in your own garden starting this season. You will learn how to grow food that practically takes care of itself, just the way self-reliant communities have done it for hundreds of years. Lamb's quarters is the first plant most Amish gardeners never actually plant. It simply appears in disturbed soil, along fence lines, in gravel, and at the edges of fields where nothing was invited to grow. While most people yank it out thinking it is just another weed, experienced growers recognize it immediately as one of the most productive leafy greens a garden can produce. It tastes almost identical to spinach, handles summer heat without bolting, and one single plant can drop thousands of seeds before the season ends. Those seeds sit quietly in the soil until conditions are right, then germinate on their own without any human involvement. The Amish learned to leave a few plants standing at the end of each season specifically to guarantee next year's crop. Zero effort. Maximum return. Purslane comes next, and it is the plant that fights back when you try to remove it. Its thick succulent stems store water in a way that lets it stay crisp and productive through dry spells that would wilt most garden greens. If you break a stem while weeding and leave it on the ground, it roots itself and starts over. That same characteristic that makes it frustrating to eliminate makes it incredibly valuable as a food source. The flavor is mild and slightly tangy. The texture is satisfying, and it contains more omega-3 fatty acids than almost any other leafy vegetable you can grow outdoors. Jerusalem artichokes, also called sunchokes, take this self-sufficiency to a completely different level. Plant them once, and your primary job from that point forward becomes containment. These plants grow 10 feet tall, flower like small sunflowers, and produce knobby tubers underground that multiply every single year. Those tubers stay edible in frozen ground all winter long, which means your storage system is just the earth itself. Dig what you need in January and leave the rest. The nutty, sweet flavor works roasted, boiled, or sliced thin and fried. Just start with small portions the first few times, because the inulin in these tubers affects digestion in a way your gut needs a few days to adjust to. Good King Henry is a perennial green that sends up asparagus-like shoots every spring before most other garden plants have even remembered what season it is. The Amish planted it in permanent spots, under fruit trees, along stone walls, in the partial shade that most vegetables reject. Generations later, those same patches are still producing. The young shoots steam beautifully, with butter. The mature leaves cook exactly like spinach. And the plant asks for nothing in return except to be left alone and occasionally harvested. Dandelions represent everything modern lawn culture gets wrong about food. While homeowners pay professionals to chemically eliminate dandelions, the Amish were harvesting them as one of the first fresh greens of the year. The deep taproot pulls minerals from soil layers that shallow-rooted crops never reach. Young spring leaves in salads, flowers in homemade wine, roasted roots as a coffee substitute. The entire plant is useful. It appears on its own, and it spreads freely without any planting at all. Sorrel is the perennial green with a built-in lemon flavor from the oxalic acid in its leaves. Cut it repeatedly through the season, and it grows back faster than you can use it. A handful of chopped sorrel transforms a bland pot of potato soup into something sharp and complex without adding a single spice from the cabinet. It tolerates poor soil, partial shade, and drought, and the same root system keeps producing for 20 years or longer. Walking onions solve the replanting problem in the most creative way imaginable. Instead of flowers, they grow small bulbs at the top of their stalks. Those bulbs weigh the stalk down until it bends over, touches the soil, and roots itself to start a new plant. The patch walks across your garden year after year, expanding on its own. The greens are edible, the underground bulbs cook like shallots, and the whole plant survives winters that kill regular onion sets completely. Malabar spinach thrives in summer heat that ends the season for every other leafy green in the garden. It climbs vertical supports aggressively, covering an 8-foot trellis from a single square foot of ground. The leaves are thick and slightly mucilaginous, which naturally thickens soups without flour or cornstarch. When the season ends and frost arrives, the berries left on the plant drop seeds that often germinate on their own the following spring. Ground cherries enclose each fruit inside a papery husk that protects it from insects and rain. When the fruit is ripe, it falls to the ground and waits for you to collect it. You harvest by walking through and gathering fallen husks rather than monitoring ripeness on the plant. The flavor is somewhere between a tomato and a pineapple, sweet and slightly tart, and the fruits store for weeks inside their husks without refrigeration or canning. Chicory grows in gravel at the roadside with zero care and still looks healthier than vegetables in well-tended beds. The young spring leaves are bitter greens that improve when mixed with milder varieties. The mature roots, when roasted and ground, produce a dark powder that substitutes for coffee or extends supplies when the real thing runs low. The blue flowers only open in morning sunlight, attracting pollinators that benefit every other crop nearby. Cowpeas fix nitrogen directly from the air into the soil through bacterial nodules on their roots. Plant them in exhausted soil, harvest them all season either as fresh green beans or dry storage beans, and leave the roots in place to rebuild fertility for whatever you plant next. They handle heat, drought, and clay soil without complaint, while common beans refuse to cooperate. Swiss chard gives you months of continuous production from a single planting by letting you harvest outer leaves while the center keeps growing. It tolerates both summer heat and autumn frost, bridging the gap between seasons that most greens cannot survive. One row produces more food per square foot than almost any other vegetable in the garden. The pattern across all 20 of these plants is the same. They return on their own. They tolerate conditions that stop other vegetables cold. They produce food without requiring ideal soil, perfect watering schedules, or expensive inputs. The Amish did not keep growing these plants out of tradition for its own sake. They kept growing them, because in a life where the garden was the difference between abundance and shortage, plants that behaved like weeds were not a problem to solve. They were the entire point. Start with 2 or 3 of these this season. Give them a corner of your garden that you are willing to leave alone. Watch what happens when you stop trying to control every variable and let plants that were bred by centuries of hard conditions do what they were designed to do. The work gets easier. The harvests get more reliable. And you start to understand exactly what the Amish figured out a very long time ago.